Greetings and skeletations, my new ghoul friends. I'm Niomi Dylan Sass, resident podcaster here at UIC Radio, and I'm taking you along with me to visit something grave today. This is where hauntings feel like hellos. Welcome to season 2 of a podcast where we talk about everything in the horror genre, from movies to mythologies and mysteries. This is She's in the Crypt. Along with us on this week's frightful journey, your favorite ghoul's favorite ghoul is taking a solo trip to the Crypt today. It's spring break here at the Crypt, and all my favorite ghouls are out of town getting a moonlight glow to refreshen their vitals right before returning to the Tomb of Tales. Not to worry, because that means we get to hang out with my favorite mystery-solving gang, Mystery Incorporated. More specifically, the 2015 series Be Cool, Scooby Doo, which happens to be my number one favorite version of Scooby Doo and his pals. There is no need for a trigger warning this week because today's dark discussion is everyone's preferred potion. However, if you don't like the fun, then ghoul, I get it if you can't listen to that right now. Just leave us a like on your way out and be sure to tune in next week for a different dark discussion. After this quick break, I'll be back to do some grave digging into 3 of my favorite episodes from season 1 of Be Cool, Scooby Doo. I'll be showing you 3 of my favorite monsters from this Scoobyverse and how this group of eccentric, ragtag teens are able to put their wits together to unmask the villain every time. By the end of this episode, you will be dying to get your hands on the tapes to watch this season, which was written the most comedically of any Scooby Doo. I'll be rolling in my grave with excitement while you listen to this quick message from beyond. For the Scoober Dubert fans out there, I'm going to try and summon the Sarah Ravencroft. The Hex Girls helped banish her once, but I need an effing guest, so... Dreadful darkness, hear me cry. Bring back one who cannot die. Let the witch who perished here live again and reappear. Dang it, it was worth a shot. Well... we'll do it my way. This is She's Summoning. Everyone, welcome to the studio. Me. How are y'all? Yeah, so it's spring break right now. This episode will come out next week. I didn't want an episode to miss, so I made sure to come in and record an episode during spring break. It's super dead on campus right now. I kind of like when it's dead on campus because, like, it took me, 3 minutes to skate over here. Nonetheless, whatever. I need to try to still figure out how to put my podcast in a video format. There was a software in the editing studio here at the school, but everybody got logged out and everybody got logged back in except for my profile. It's still locked out. I'm gonna try to get that logged in today. We shall see. However, we'll see how that goes. I wanted to share a little something random with you guys. So I think it's known that I stopped drinking for a while. I've been over a year sober, not drinking alcohol. But last night and kind of a couple nights, I've been getting dreams of drinking liquor again. And every time I drink liquor inside of my dream, I end up regretting it. I don't drink that much, or I don't even drink at all. I end up like one of the dreams, I bought a drink, and as soon as I bought it, I was like, you know what? I'm just kidding. LOL. JK, I'm not gonna drink it. But the dream that I had last night, I drank. I indulged myself. I drank and I drank and I drank, and I had a couple drinks, and not having drunk in a long time. Still in my dream, I'm sober in my dream, and knowing that still, in my dream, I knowing that this was like my first drink in a while. I still obviously regretted it, but it was even like weirder because like I woke up with heartburn that I used to get when I would drink all the time. And yeah, it was crazy. And then when I was in the bathroom, like as I was like going pee, I literally like, when you're about to throw up and your mouth just starts to water, especially when you've been drinking and your mouth just really starts to salivate out of nowhere and you're like, wow, I'm gonna throw up like right now. Oh, yep, right now it's coming. That was me this morning when I was like trying to go pee. And I was like, wait, hold on. No, I'm not. Wait, what is going on? I'm not gonna throw up. I'm not gonna go through like the worst parts about drinking or not even having the fun of being able to have drunk. I just thought that was crazy though. Also, I could have just eaten something spicy that didn't agree with my stomach that gave me heartburn. And I had heartburn in my sleep. And because of the heartburn in my sleep, my brain like triggered it to make it think that it was from alcohol. And that's why I had that dream. Or it could totally be the magical fantasy different, and I could have actually gotten the heartburn and wanting to have thrown up because of my dream. Who knows? But anyways, I think it is about time to get into the next segment. Are you guys ready? So, this is Dark Discussions. Shh. So, I'm going to switch it up a little bit on my outline. I had this episode originally be last, but I like bought the 3 episodes on Prime. I have the episodes on like DVD, but I needed to like just rewatch them to try to refresh my memory, make sure I know what I'm talking about before I pressed record today. So I had bought like the 3 episodes that I'm talking about on Prime, and the first one that I bought, which was like the last one in the outline that I wrote, it was labeled as the episode that I wrote it as, but like as soon as I pressed play, it was a completely different episode. I was like, oh, great. All right, cool. So we'll just do this one from memory. With that being said, the other two I was able to rewatch beforehand. So I'm just gonna like switch up the format a little bit. So I'm gonna start with the episode is labeled Party Like It's 1899. The premise of this one, according to the hostess, guests will soon arrive to pretend to be people pretending to solve a pretend mystery while a pretend monster pretends to attack them. Every pretend detail must be perfect. The gang is on a horse carriage ride this time while they are on their way to a monster mystery party. Daphne says she's excited. Fred asks why haven't they went to one before, and she says she always thought they seemed geeky and nerdy. Then says to just look at the invitation the party was sent on. So this is actually kind of a really funny part. As Daphne's saying this, they like pan to the invitation. The invitation somehow is shaped and colored exactly like Velma's face. So when she's like talking about, oh, this thing is geeky and nerdy, just look at the invitation. It literally pans to the invitation that looks exactly like Velma, and then it pans to Velma like looking irritated and annoyed, like, wow, really? And she's like, should I be offended by this? So Shaggy and Scooby don't want to go because they are scared, and Velma doesn't want to go because they actually solve real mysteries and don't know why they would want to solve a fake one. The guests are all getting acquainted with the host and hostess as they come down to the party to get it started. The hostess says that this year's game will be based on the dark legend of the Headless Count, who haunts Weathering Manor in search of a new head. Daphne is playing Queen Victoria of England. Bradwick will portray the King of England. Bradwick's just some like rich fancy dude that's also at the party, but somehow Daphne like has relations with him. Like that's was like a friend from before because Daphne's, super rich too. Fred will portray bumbling police constable Jiri. Velma will portray Flamsy, the scullery maid. Shaggy is going to play Winkle, the chimney sweep, and Lady Bethabeth will be played by no other than Scooby Doo. And the butler will be the butler. Thank you, Butler. They have to be in character at all times or be disqualified and sent to their rooms. Whoever solves the mystery will have their portrait hung and displayed in the Hall of Master Sleuths. Fred is trying to talk to Velma, and she replies she doesn't know this Velma whom he speaks of. He realizes that Velma doesn't break rules, and she says, "No, sir, not Velma, Flamsy." The first victim is claimed in the next room, and Fred is in it. The hostess reminds Fred he has to be more bumbling and less get to the bottom of things. So, that's kind of funny. The first victim was so real because these are all people who, assuming, are paying for this ticket to, like, be a part of this murder mystery. So the first person, when the killer comes to get her, she's like, "Wait! I'm just getting started! No!" And then you hear the hostess in the back, "No, it's your turn to die. You gotta go. You're victim number 1." And then you hear, like, them just, like, rumbling in the back, and then the lights turn on, and then the hostess is like, "Oh, no. Victim number 1 has fell." Yeah, it was funny. So, it's revealed that there is another Headless Count that just kidnapped the fake Headless Count, and as the Headless Count screams out that the other one is real, they both vanish. Fred is the only one to see this, so he tries to get Daphne to team up with her. She's already in character as the Queen. The Queen would never team up with some bumbling constable. Instead, she decrees that the Queen herself can solve this mystery single-handedly. Shaggy and Scooby say that the mystery solving should be left to the real mystery solvers, and they notice a book on the floor. It's the first clue to the mystery, or game, the mystery game. The Queen decreed that the clue means, and Fred interrupts her, saying that she just can't decree what a clue is. Daphne says she's the Queen, and she decrees that the Queen can decree whatever she wants. Velma, as the maid, comes in character to clean up the mess. Shaggy and Scooby find a hidden passageway and aren't scared because they think it's just a game, so they are low-key vibing with their characters. The King shows the Queen Daph the Hall of Master Sleuths and reveals that he, himself, Bradwick, has been the Master Sleuth for the continuous years prior. Daphne decrees that they are a team, and they should split up and look for more clues. Fred can't get help from anyone, so he decides he's got to go on his own. Then he realizes he's not alone. He has Constable Jerry with him, and he goes into a schizophrenic episode talking to himself in character. He goes to check the hostess's room and finds it ripped to shreds and items missing. A luxury limo rental key was left at the scene of the crime. Shaggy and Scoob realize they are pretty good at solving mysteries when there isn't actually any real danger involved. Next, then the Headless Count shows up. They start busting up laughing and then apologize and quickly go back into character. The Headless Count roars, trying to scare them, and they keep cracking up more and more because they don't realize this is the real monster. They think it's an actor. The hostess pops in when the Count pops out, and they find the second clue, the feather. Fred runs into Daphne and tells her to forget about the rules, and there is a real Count on the loose. Okay, hold on, I'm gonna stop there real quick. So the feather, the feather is really funny. Shaggy and Scooby are trying to get to the bottom of where the heck this feather came from, so they're like investigating, they are like interrogating a chicken or a rooster. They have him like tied up and a lamp pointed at him, and they're showing them the feather like, where did this come from? And then it pins to like a pin board, you know, when police are trying to like solve who the murderer is, blah blah blah. So it pins to the pin board, and they have like a pillow, the chicken, and like a feather duster and other stuff, random like little household items where a feather would come from, and they have like the little strings attached to it, and then they circle and they figure out where the feather actually came from, and it came from a feather duster, duh. But I just thought that was funny, them trying to interrogate the chicken, like, where did the feather come from? So, perfect. So, they spot the Headless Count, they as in Fred and Daphne, and Daphne goes up to him, decreeing him to stop, and the Count goes and slices his sword at Daphne. Fred pushes her out of the way just in time, and she says, I think I just decreed my pants. Now they are getting chased down into the party with the rest of the guests. All of the guests think it's part of the game, and the Headless Count starts capturing everyone and tying them up in the montage. At the end of the montage, everyone is captured, and Daphne and Fred are trying to figure out what happened, and they run into Bradwick as Daphne was just saying how hot he was. Bradwick tells them about the hidden passageways. Fred tells them to go upstairs to search for others, while he goes downstairs to check for clues. Bradwick left just as the Headless Count showed up and caught Fred and Daphne. Shaggy and Scoob go down to the basement to prove that the butler did it, and when they go down there, they find him tied up with ropes. They realize that there actually is a real Headless Count. The monster comes out and chases them upstairs into the kitchen, where Velma is counting down as the boys run past her, and she knocks over the water, making the Headless Count slip. She tells the boys that she knew they would figure out that the butler did it. Just too bad that there was a real Headless Count, too. The gang reveals that it was Bradwick. He did it because he is actually poor. He was trying to rob all the guests. The only reason why he was the master sleuth all those years was that he had read the master mystery book, so he was able to control the game easily. And he would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for meddling Daphne and her friends. She says, yeah, whatever. Off with his heads! And then the cops look at her, and she's like, or jail works too. Yeah, this is one of my favorite episodes because murder mysteries are kind of like one of my favorite jams, like Clue's so fun, the game Clue's so fun. I have a Scooby Doo version of the game Clue, which is even toppest tier fun. If anybody ever wants to play that with me, pretty please let me know. I want to play it so bad. I haven't gotten to play it like since I had lived in California with my old friends. Shout out, I miss you guys so much. I'm gonna cry. Yeah, shout out guys, love you guys so much. Another reason why this episode is super good is because it's just like a farce and a farce and a farce. It is just like the beginning line that the hostess tells all of her maids is just so funny. The guest will soon arrive to pretend to be people pretending to solve a pretend mystery while a pretend monster pretends to attack them. And then they add a real monster to it. So it's just really good. Yeah. So the next episode is called Into the Mouth of Madcap. The gang is driving in the mystery machine, and Fred is trying to ask Daphne a question about a particular person in the van. No one in the gang, but this strange small child that's sitting in the middle of them, randomly. Daphne replies, "Oh, you mean Wayne," who she is babysitting because she wanted to do her friend a favor. They are all going to an amusement park so Daphne can try to help Wayne have a good time. So, Wayne is a little boy. If they're all teenagers, he's probably, I want to say 9, maybe 10. But yeah, he's just stoic, stone cold, like no expression on his face. I don't even think he blinked in the van. He's just looking straight forward, completely hearing everyone, but purposely ignoring them or not replying to them. Yeah, and I do believe it's on purpose. I don't think that he doesn't know how to talk. I think he doesn't want to talk to them specifically. So when they get to the amusement park, it's rather empty, strangely, but Shaggy and Scooby go and raid the food shacks anyway, with the help of Fred's credit card. One of the workers comes up to the gang and tells them they have had some trouble lately. A few years ago, a clown called Madcap went crazy in the fun house, where they finally locked him up in a prison. But rumor has it, he has escaped because some folks were attacked by him the other night. So, in this version of Scooby-Doo, Velma has a, I wouldn't say an irrational fear of clowns because I don't think being scared of clowns is irrational. But she has a fear of clowns and she is not messing with them. She's like, did you say a clown? Usually it's Shaggy and Scooby who are super scared of everything. But this time Velma's like, wait, no, scratch that. Rewind it. What'd you say? Yeah. A clown? A clown? No. Not gonna do this. So the gang promises the worker that pops out and is trying to give them all some backstory, some lore, that they will get to the bottom of this mystery. Velma, Daphne, and Wayne go one way, Shaggy and Scooby the other, and Fred was left alone to solely look for clues while the others did their own thing. None of them wanted to help Fred out with this mystery. Daphne was too busy trying to make sure Wayne was having a good time. Velma was too busy trying to make sure she was anywhere away from the I wasn't gonna curse. Anywhere away from the clowns. Shaggy and Scooby went to go do Shaggy and Scooby, which is eat. So, Shaggy and Scooby start playing all the carnival games and are quickly met by Madcap, the Killer Clown. The clown has this huge hammer, like the ones where you bang to test your strength, and starts to chase them down with it. They land inside the bumper cart rides where the clown repeatedly keeps bumping their car with his. This is actually kind of a really funny part. Like like the two are just in their own cars, and then the clown is just hitting them. And it's like, what is going on here? So the boys get chased into a corner where they put on their fake out. So Shaggy is a show balloon making person and Scooby is his assistant, the beautiful Scoobiana. They work together to confuse the clown and leave a balloon version of themselves in their stead to get away from them. Fred runs into Clara Bell, a real estate agent who is interested in buying the park, and she says, "Isn't it a shame that something like the clown really spikes down property values?" Fred is immediately suspicious of her, and she threatens him. As she is walking away, she falls. Okay, so this is kind of like really one of the funny parts for no reason. So Clara Bell is known to buy damaged property. So when she realizes Fred is getting suspicious of her, that's when she tries to be all cool and mysterious, and she's like, there's dry rot everywhere. It'd be a shame if somebody took a fall. And then as she said that, you just hear something break underneath of her, and then she's like, ah! And it's just awkwardly silent right there, and then you just hear her yell out, "Could you just pretend I left on the cooler part?" And then Fred's like, "What, you mean the threat?" And then she's like, yeah, that. Yeah, that was funny. So, Velma, Daphne, and Wayne are on a roller coaster where Wayne is showing absolutely no emotion at all, while the other two are trying to get something out of him. The clown ends up on the ride and are messing with them. As the cart is heading up a steep hill, the clown is waiting for them at the top to strike them with his hammer while it's lifted straight into the air. But before he could land a hit, Fred and the boys find the controls for the ride and send the girls and Wayne backwards, saving them. For now. Now it's a chase scene on the roller coaster, and Wayne is still stoic, showing no emotion or reaction, while the other two are screaming for their lives, trying to keep him safe and calm, even though he is far beyond calm. So it's funny, at the end of this, during amusement park rides, there's always some sort of little picture and stuff. So at the end of this little chase scene on the amusement park ride, it takes a picture of them, and it's just Wayne stoic in the middle, no emotion. Velma and Daphne on each side of him, scared, trying to fake a smile with their thumbs up, and then behind them is the clown trying to hit them with the hammer. It's a really good picture. They are all able to escape the clutches of this crazy clown, and they are able to catch their breaths while talking about all their clues that they've gathered. Velma is going to keep an eye on Wayne outside of the fun house, while the rest of them go inside to try to take down the killer clown Madcap. So inside of the funhouse, there's a really fun moment, no pun intended, but they're walking through these fun mirrors, and fun mirrors, they change the way your body looks. You can get bigger, smaller, stretch out, stretch wide, stretch thin. So in the very last mirror where they are, it's just the reflection of them, but it's like the cartoon versions of them from like the 70s. And then it's like them saying like, "Whoa, I'm glad we don't look like this." It was funny. I love when they do little callbacks to the previous renditions of Scooby Doo. So yeah, as the gang is searching the creepy funhouse looking for the clown, Velma is outside having a one-sided conversation with the silent Wayne. She's telling him, isn't he glad that a grown-up stayed outside with him, and not like she's hiding or letting her friends walk straight into harm's way without her help or anything. Then she admits that she used Wayne as a ploy to keep herself away from the clown, and as she just keeps talking and talking to herself, might I add, and tells Wayne, wow, you're a really good listener. All this is happening while the gang is getting horrifically chased down by the clown, and just as Velma talked herself into helping them, the gang comes running out of the funhouse screaming. The clown runs out right into Velma by accident, tripping him, making the whole funhouse come down and trapping him. They reveal the clown to be a, quote, friendly clown, quote, talking trash about Madcap at the beginning of the episode. The the freaking the carny worker. So, as Fred is about to explain what happened, Wayne finally shouted, "Duh! It was obvious to anyone," and then goes on about how the owner of the park didn't want to invest in the repairs and thought it would be cheaper to sell it to an investor, which would cost the clown the one job he loved so much. He hoped to scare off the developers by making the legend of Madcap come true. Wouldn't you just think that, like, so if you're a clown and you're scared of like losing, like there's other clowning jobs, bro. There's a whole coast of seas. There's a West Coast. There's the East Coast. You could even go to the Lake Coasts and be a clown over there. Like over here at Chicago at the boardwalk, I don't see no clowns. I would love to see a clown over there personally. I don't know about some people, but I love a clown. I don't know why you did all that. Like you literally could have just looked for a different job. But I get it. If you really love your job, some people would go to the lengths to keep it. Some funny things in this episode, like the cold open, it was two dudes at the carnival who were trying to go into the fun house, and one of them was kind of scared and the other one was like kind of like a jerk. They're both like look like frat bros or whatever. And so the one dude was like, "What are you, scared?" And he's like, "Kind of." And then he's like, "What are you, chicken? Buck, 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 buck." I mean, a little. And then he's like, "What do you need to do? Call your mommy." And he's like, "It is getting pretty late." And he's like, "Dude, you're ruining the peer pressure thing." And he's like, "Oh, okay, my bad. Yeah, try again." He's like, and then the dude's like irritated over it. "What are you, scared?" "No! Come on!" That part was funny. Another funny thing was the real estate agent's slogan for like her company was, "You break it, we buy it." Which honestly is kind of like a sleigh, like the people who flip houses. I don't see why not. That's kind of a cute slogan. I would be like, all right, if I broke it, I would call you. When they were doing the chase scene on the roller coaster, one of my biggest fears, roller coasters, but as they were getting to like the end of the roller coaster just has this giant, it's unfinished, and this giant hole in it, and there's just the sign that tries to stop the track, but it's like, what? There's a sign, and the sign just says, "Oopsies, unfinished track," and they go flying off the track into all the other rides. Logically, no, that would not make sense. In the Scooby Doo verse, yes, that does make sense. And Velma was not messing with the clowns at all. She was not fancying them. She was not serving them. They were not on her platter. She did not want anything to do with them. She was like, all clowns are scary and bad. So, she's like, that's the takeaway from this whole experience is all clowns are scary and bad. And then the police, they're like, "What do we arrest him for dressing up as a mean clown?" And then as they're like about to let the clown go, the clown police come. So it's a tiny little clown police car, and a bunch of clown police come like jumping out of it, and they're like, get him, arrest him. You have the right to remain silent if you choose to be tried as a mime. And then they take him away. The writing's so funny. It's so funny. All right, the last episode is El Bandito. So the gang is in the van again, and they're on their way to a celebration for Dia de los Muertos, and Velma is saying she is surprised that the boys are actually excited for this kind of celebration. They said that Fred already told them that it's just a party with costumes, decorations, and their favorite thing. Shaggy said, "These muertos sound delicious." Fred totally lied about what the festival is about. As soon as they get there, the boys run out and see all of the skulls and dead people, and then Shaggy yells at him, "You lied to us, Fred!" And Scooby adds, "In Spanish!" Daphne explains it as a really fun, morbid family reunion, and she realizes that maybe she should try to get in touch with her ancestors. She yells into the air if there are any of her dead relatives there to give her a sign. Then a literal sign flies off a shop and hits Daphne in the face. The sign is from a cookie shop, and it dawns on Daphne that it must be from her eccentric Aunt Cookie, who was kind of the outcast of the Blake family. The mayor came up to them and said, "Have fun at the festival and be careful for El Bandito because some kids said they were attacked by him." So El Bandito was one of the greatest criminals in history. He was wanted for over 50 years. He robbed from the rich and gave to the poor, then robbed from the poor and kept an enormous stash of money which was never found, but swore his spirits would come back to protect it. Fred is fangirling over El Bandito and recognizes that if he solves the mystery, he will be a part of the legend. So Fred goes on to be like, "The people will call me El Frederico." And then Velma's like, "You know that just means the Fred, right?" And then Fred's like, "The Fred." He's such a dumbass in this. Shaggy and Scooby are having a hard time getting through the festival because they are scared by all the skulls. Of course, they run into El Bandito. It cuts back to the gang, who are pondering where the boys ran off to, when Daphne yells out, "Great Aunt Cookie, please guide our friends back to us." They appear running into a gift shop, and she thanks her Aunt Cookie, and Velma swears it was just a coincidence. The gang starts looking for clues for this mystery and heads to the graveyard where the tomb of the El Bandito lies. Fred sees footprints that look like El Bandito's. The gravekeeper comes out, which scares them, and says that he can't stop them from looking legally. El Bandito pops out and starts to chase them all when they split up. Of course, the monster chases down Shaggy and Scooby. Shag asks why they always follow them, and Scoob replies that it's kind of flattering. El Bandito catches up to Shaggy, who's dressed up as a doctor, who tells him that he's looking in bad shape and he needs to be checked out. Code dead. Scooby is dressed as a nurse and comes rushing in to help. This is their fake out. He starts taking the blood pressure when Shaggy asks what it is. Scooby replies, "Dead over, not so alive." Oh. Wait. Sorry. So, like when you're taking blood pressure, it's like 80 over 40 or whatever blood pressure is. He said, "Dead over, not so alive." Pulse equals dead. Heart rate equals dead. Patient is suffering from hardcore deadness. And the EKG flatlines. Shaggy and Scooby lay down El Bandito and put the blanket over his head, then run away before he realizes they were just messing with him. The boys run into a gift stand that has a bunch of El Bandito merchandise, and he and Fred have a knowledge off about which one knows the most about the masked criminal. So he, as in the merchant owner. So they both start asking each other questions, basically like measuring each other's knows. And dude knows a lot about El Bandito. Fred is kind of impressed. The mayor comes to confront them about the ruckus they caused at the cemetery and tells them to get out of her town. Fred ignores the order and decides they all go undercover, and they get dressed into Dia de los Muertos looks. Honestly, these were some of my favorite looks. To sidetrack real quick, I just love the concept of Dia de los Muertos. Not the concept, but like the fashion concept behind it. When I was doing costume design for Little Red, a punk rock musical, which was a Hispanic-inspired tale of Little Red, the costumes, there was like a band in there called Jack B. Nimbles, and I really like, they were a part of the script and everything. Like, yeah, the costumes I had originally designed for them were like Dia de los Muertos looks, and like to be like tethered and ripped up and like neon paint, and to always have the band underneath like a black light, so they would really just shine and look super crazy and cool. They did not have the budget for that. They ended up all wearing black. I was very upset, even though it would have just costed, I mean, guys, when you do freaking college theater, especially community college theater, a small community college, they had no budge. The budge was not budgeting. They wanted to give me $500 to make over 30 different costumes. $500, not pay me mind you, I did this for free, but my budget to get costumes, create costumes, all by myself, mind I add, was $500. Like, that was crazy. Yeah, whatever. But I love Dia de los Muertos. It's such C-U-N-T. I can't say that word, but I love it so much. They crash the giant party where the opened tombs of the mausoleums are there because of their sacred traditions. The gang uses this opportunity to search El Bandito's tombs for clues. Of course, the monster is hiding in there, waiting for them. He tricks them and traps them inside the tomb. Velma does the math, and because it is airtight, she says as soon as the candle goes out, there won't be enough oxygen for them. They have approximately 4.5 minutes left to live. Thank you, Velma. Fred is bummed because he won't be able to solve the mystery and become a part of this legend. Shaggy and Scooby assure him that when they open the tomb up from a year from now, they will become a part of the darker side of the legend, implying that they're going to find their dead bodies in there and be like, oh, I guess these kids are dead. So Daphne is sad that she'll never get to figure out the message her Aunt Cookie was trying to tell her. Then it dawns on her that El Bandito's initials of his real name are B.U. for Benito Ureno. She said Cookie wanted them to know to be you, like be yourself. Then she said it makes perfect sense because her aunt would always say, you can teach a frog to bark, but then you got a green dog. She goes on to tell the gang to lean into themselves. Shaggy and Scooby have the best survival instincts on the planet. Velma having science and logic as her greatest weapons, and Fred being the greatest puzzle solver she's ever known. This was enough inspiration to get them to create a plan to escape the tomb just in the nick of time. The gang sets off to trap El Bandito, and one last final battle against the bandit. They capture him, revealing it to be Gustavo, the gift shop merchant. He wanted to sneak into the tomb of the real El Bandito and grab the handkerchief that held the map of the treasure he kept hidden. Velma said the plan was too perfect because the person was a stickler for El Bandito trivia. Fred reveals he knew something more about El Bandito than him. He was like, I know something that you don't know about El Bandito. So it was that his two sabers were actually the keys to where El Bandito kept his treasure, which coincidentally was right next to them. Fred unlocked it, revealing countless amounts of gold. That's when they wrapped it all up. Dude got arrested, and the mayor was excited that she is rich. All right, so the cold open for this one, it was really funny. They were doing, like, it was just this couple who was cloud watching, and then they were, like, describing kind of, like, what the clouds look like, and then the one girl was like, she was like, that one looks like lobsters whispering to a ceiling fan, and then it literally kind of, like, looked like that, and then the dude was like, oh, that one looks like this, and she was like, oh, I kind of thought it looked like half onion and half of my Uncle Bobby, and then he was like, oh, that looks like a bandit with swords, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, really? That one looks like a human toe trying to explain photosynthesis to a donut. And it's literally a cloud shaped as a toe explaining photosynthesis to a donut. That one was like a visual visual joke. So, another thing, Daphne was like, ugh, Aunt Cookie always had a thing for bad guys. Hopefully she doesn't go after El Bandito. And like when they ran into the grave robber, he was just standing there, and then they just turned around and saw him, and they all screamed, and he was like, I have that effect on people. I do too. I like walk quiet sometimes, and if I'm just right behind somebody and they turn around, they're like, ah! And I'm like, sorry guys, I have that effect on people. That's me. That was on me. Cool. Those were my 3 favorite episodes from season 1 of the series Be Cool, Scooby Doo, which means there is always room for an episode about my favorite ones of season 2. There was sadly only 2 seasons of this show, but it was back then when seasons were still like 20-something and not just like 9 episodes, you know? So I think all in all, there's over 50 episodes of this show. Each one is about 20-25 minutes, and they're all so funny. When I mean they're written so funny, I mean they're written so funny. Like, I am a grown-up, and I know what comedy is, or at least the comedy that I subscribe to. And all of the words that come out of these characterized versions of the Mystery Gang tickle me pink. I just wanted to talk about like some of the through lines. So some through lines, like Fred's a dummy. Shaggy and Scooby are always worried about food. They're always the first people to get chased, and they're always the ones to create like this new kind of ruse or a fake out that like tricks the monsters so they have more time to run away. Those are always like my favorite parts of the episode. I always want to do like I want to like do that in real life in a show somehow. Just like I just think it's so funny for no reason. So like the formula is pretty simple for the show. They always start with like a cold open. The cold open kind of introduces the monster, and then it goes into the theme song. After the theme song, then it gets right into the gang driving either in the van or like sometimes it's in like the one episode it was in a horse carriage. But usually they're traveling to wherever this destination's gonna hold the mystery at. And each episode is different because it'll switch to like who's the reason why we're here, you know, like sometimes we're here because Daphne, sometimes we're here because of Shaggy and Scooby, sometimes we're here because Velma got sent on a scholarly mission, sometimes Fred, you know, so they always switch it up with that, which makes it kind of like funnier and through lines. So then they always end up getting the mystery as soon as they land right where their destination is, and they're like, well, I guess this is what we're doing now. And then they solve the mystery and they go on about their day. I don't even think that I wonder if they ever even do the things that they go to the town to do originally before they get sidetracked by shenanigans and buffoonery. All right. I also wanted to like shout out the voice actors for this specific show. Obviously, Frank Welker is the one that plays Scooby-Doo and Fred Jones. Gray Delisle Griffin. I think Griffin was Delisle or Griffin was like one of her maiden names, and then she got married. She's one of my favorite. I think she's my favorite like Daphne voice actress. Matthew Lillard Shaggy, and then Kate Micucci is Velma. So Kate Micucci, you'll probably know her voice acting as Velma. She was just inside of the Trick or Treat Scooby Doo as Velma. Oh, she was the Velma for the Scooby Doo and Guess Who series. And she was the Velma for the Straight Outta Nowhere. That one was the crossover with Courage the Cowardly Dog, The Sword and the Shield. She was the Velma for that one. Oh, Return to Zombie Island, Curse of the 13 Ghosts. Yeah, she was a Velma for a lot of them actually. Same with Gray Delisle Griffin. I think it would be easier to like tell you the Scooby Doos where Gray wasn't Daphne and it was just a few of them. Early 90s, back in the 80s. And honestly, same with Matthew Lillard. Matthew Lillard, ever since he played Scooby Doo, like in real life, he basically was every Shaggy in every animated version ever besides the movie Scoob. But the way that he would get into like voice for Shaggy is he would try to mimic Casey Kasem. And he would be like, I'm Casey Kasem. I'm Casey Kasem. I'm Casey Kasem. Like, zoinks! We gotta get out of here, Scoob! And it kind of works. If you know who Casey Kasem is, R.I.P. to B.I.G. You are doing your big one up in heaven. I hope you are living it up big in there with everybody else who left us way too soon. Alrighty, so we're at the part where we get to play one of my favorite games, Slash or Smash. The rules are very simple. I will tell you an iconic horror character, and we will say whether we would slash or smash and why. So, since we already did a round where we had the gang inside, we are going to do the villains and their counterparts, the people with their masks off. So first up, we're going to have Madcap, the Killer Clown. And for me, that's going to be a slash. That's going to be a slash immediately. He is so scary. Out of all the monsters, he is the scariest one. Yeah. Y'all will see y'all will see the picture. He's super scary. I don't think I would smash Art the Clown, but like Madcap, the Killer Clown, I would not smash. No. So him with his mask off, the next person on the dossier, I don't know his name, but it's just another clown, but this one's just like your regular standard clown. And still, no, slash. Not because he's a clown, okay? But because he was an emotional clown, you know? I can do funny clown. But a sad clown? You want me to be with a sad clown? No, I think I would be the sad clown if I were to be with a sad clown. All right, next up on the dossier is El Bandito. Honestly, it's going to be a smash. His body was built big. Like, he had big arms, a big chest, and like I said, I'm really into the Dia de los Muertos, so even if you wanted to do it like with the makeup and the mask on, I'd be here for it, as long as, you know, well, yeah, for me, that's going to be a smash. However, with the mask off, I believe his name was Gustavo. No, it's going to be a slash. And I'm going to tell you why. Because you were like too much of a fangirl for this guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I hate somebody who's like, you just seem like the kind of person to always correct somebody when it's totally not necessary. Like, if somebody spelled there and it was supposed to be like they are, you'd be like, it's they are. And for that, I'm gonna have to slash you. That's the vibe you give me. That's not my fault. That's the vibe you give off, okay? So, next up on the dossier, we are gonna have the Headless Count. And this one, I have to think about this one. So, count means they got money. Headless means you could be a sugar baby without having to give the sugar. You know what? I think I convinced myself. Smash! We're going to smash the Headless Count, okay? And last person on the dossier, Mr. Masked off of the Headless Count, I believe Bradwick, yeah. And I'm going to smash him too, because, yeah, he was also built very nice. His hair looked like expensive, delicious, luscious brown locks of deliciousness. And he had like one of those fancy person's accents, and he wasn't rich anymore, and he was stealing for money, which is kind of a turn on for me. Not like in real life, but like theoretically, you know, who doesn't love a bad boy, especially a rich bad boy? And he still is technically rich, just the money that he has was stolen, you know? It's other people's riches. Alrighty, so That was Slash or Smash. Remember, you can tune into my Instagram to watch the vlog series of Slash or Smash, where I go around campus and find people to torment and ask them these personal questions. So, we have almost dug a hole big enough to fit this topic into, but before we go, this is part of the show where we answer chilling inquiries from our crypt keepers. Today's question is, to the cryptress who can read. I've wandered the foggy streets long after midnight, following shadows that twist and whisper secrets no living soul should hear. Lanterns quake in the mists, and every corner seems to hide eyes that shouldn't exist. Weeks ago, I stumbled through a forgotten crypt beneath the city, where the air was thick and the scent of earth and decay laid. I traced the carved symbols on the wall, murmured the words I barely understood, and the floor gave way beneath me. When I awoke, I was no longer in the world I knew. Black rivers glimmered beneath floating islands of ash, and wailing figures drifted through the eternal twilight. The air itself seemed to pulse with power, and somewhere in the murmuring shadows a suggestion took shape. Soft, insistent, irresistible. I could rule this place. I could sit above the lost and the damned. The notion burned in my mind, yet I knew it was forbidden, whispered only to those who dared to listen. I wanted it because I always felt powerless in the world of the living, unseen and overlooked. Here, among the fallen and forgotten, I could finally shape itself to reality. Bend fear and fate to my will. I'm tired of just watching from the edge. I want to step beyond the veil, to hold dominion where no mortal dares tread, but I don't know where to start or whom to trust, so I ask you, cryptress, how does one become king of the underworld? Do I do it in secret? Should I take an upfront approach? Is there any powerful spirit that could aid me in this endeavor? Chillest regards, your neighbor at the crypt. This reminds me of the Dungeons and Drag Queens episode where they actually go to the underworld. They weren't trying to be like queens of the underworld, but the position opened and one of them got to do it. However, so do you do it in secret? Do you do it in secret? That's a personal choice. Me, I am loud. No, it depends. Really, it depends. So this kind of thing, I think actually the louder the better. Don't do it in secret. Assert your dominance. If you're going to do it and let people know who's doing it, when they're doing it, why they're doing it, and how they're doing it. And because the reason that they're doing it. Never do it in secret. Be proud of who you are and what you want, okay? So, should you take an upfront approach? An upfront approach. See, that would be too ballsy. You can be loud without being like too ballsy, So I would suggest trying to. This is the longer route, but not longer by too long. Just you always want to get into the politicals. So you want to try to get into the top tier of the people who run the underworld, and then backstab them. Duh. You need one person that can help you, that you can trust along the way, but they trust you and know that you trust no one. They think that you will, that they will be the exception to who you will trust, but in the end, you will just end up backstabbing them. But that's how you become king of the underworld, okay? We're here on a mission, and if you want this, you gotta get it, all right? Last question on there. Is there any powerful spirits that could aid me in this endeavor? So if you're in the underworld, you're in purgatory. I know someone. You can call his name 3 times. It's Beetlejuice. You got to say it 3 times. I'm not going to say it 3 times because then I'm going to have to deal with that big giant headache, and I do not want to deal with that big giant headache. I already had that last semester, and it took me forever to get rid of him. So go ahead and say his name 3 times. He is an exorciser, and I believe he can help you, if not him personally, get you acquainted with people that can help you take over the underworld. Because I'm sure there is plenty of people who are down to revolt against the conditions that's in right now. I heard it wasn't that great of a place to be lying around in. So with that being said, I'm sure there are plenty of people who are down to make a change. I mean, they're stuck there forever. Why not make the best out of the place where you're stuck forever? You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, I think you got this. And remember, when I get to the underworld, if you're still looking for a queen, I will happily serve by your side. And I promise I'm not going to backstab you like you backstabbed everybody else. You know, that's different. We're lovers. You know, I love you. I love you. All right. That was the Crypt question. Thank you so much for writing in. So, I just wanted to remind everybody that I am in the production of The Tragedy of Macbeth, directed by Yasin Payanakov. I am in the production of Macbeth here at UIC. I play the character Angus, and I'm some like wife, and then I do some like thriller dance. It's kind of cute. But this episode's going to be coming out the day of Tech. Yeah? Tech. Yeah. What is today? Friday? Yeah, this episode is going to come out Tech. So you can get your tickets. I already put it inside. The link is inside of the episode labeled Here Lies the Tragedy of Macbeth. So if you want tickets, you can go ahead and click that episode. Go into that description and click the link there. It is premiering April 11th. That is a Friday, I believe. It is playing until the 18th. We are doing a bunch of shows, not a Monday, though. I'm really excited for the show. We have swords, there's witches, there's a bunch of rope, there's a dance, there is a lot of athleticism, and I feel like some like battle demon galactic warrior from like Star Wars in the depth of hells. It's a really cool show. I think I've been in a lot of shows, and there's shows where you're like, oh, I can't wait for this to be over, or there's shows where, let's see how this turns out, diva. But this show is one of those shows where you're like, nah, this show's going to be outstanding. This show is going to be very, very good, in my humble opinion. The last show I was in like that was called Pop Stars the Musical. That one, I just knew from like the bottom of my heart that show was going to just kick ass. And same with this one. I think the show's just gonna kick ass. I'm super excited. I hope you guys come out to see it. If you see me at the end of it, say hey, ghoul. Alrighty, so for real, y'all, go follow my Instagram at She's in the Crypt so you can see the new mini vlog series, Slash or Smash. I'd like to thank UIC Radio for publishing this podcast, but most importantly, I'd like to thank you, the Crypt Keepers. Thank you for digging this grave with me, but unfortunately, the graveyard is closed. So until next time, we'll leave this episode in the crypt. Farewell and bad dreams. Make sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at She's in the Crypt for updates about shows and upcoming guests. Follow UIC Radio at UIC Radio on Insta, and subscribe to the UIC Radio YouTube channel so you won't miss a single episode every Friday. And you can also check out the other shows on the network too. This podcast was created, written, and edited by Niomi Dylan Sass. Hey! And published by UIC Radio. Music by Arthur Benson, The Friendly Ghost, and sound effects from epidemicsounds.com. If you can't get enough of She's in the Crypt, you can check out my weekly blog, Crypt Collections, every Saturday morning on the website uicradio.net. And find me in the blog section. Bye!